I went to Franklin Correctional, and that place was just like good old boy network. They're using taxpayer money like out at like the maintenance area. Like there was a dude that like he was like the welder on the welding squad, and literally all that fucking dude did was build smokers out of steel that they bought with, you know, prison material money.
Right.
And he'd build every officer, sergeant, lieutenant, whatever, had a fucking badass smoker built by this dude, towed away. He would even build the trailers for them.
Right.
And it's just all prison money that's building all this shit. I just always, like, they just got away with that kind of shit all the time. And, like, they'd have, like, their staff appreciation day, and, like, they have, like, that same dude that welded, like, would help them make barbecue. And, dude, they'd be, like, smoking, like, 36 Boston butts on, like, just all bought with taxpayer money. Just, like, filling up their cars with gas and just, you name it, man. Just constantly doing shit like that. Anyway, my whole thing was just, like, get to work release, get to work release, get to work release.
Where were you working?
Well, I was working at an auto body shop called Diamond Auto Painting in Lake Park, Florida. Everything was good, and, like, I got the job and was, like, working there. And I've always been a hard worker. Like, and I want to know everything about everything, so, like, just the way my mind works. So I'm like, I'm doing paint prep, I'm painting, I'm doing body work, I'm detailing, I'm helping the manager with the weekly business report, doing, like, you know, our gross profit and, you know, taxable, blah, blah, blah. And so around this time I start, like, having these two officers kind of fuck with me a little bit at the work release center. They start, like, ransacking my room and, like, holding me in from going to work and, like, all that kind of stuff. And I just, like, I don't understand why, because I was, like, textbook model prisoner.
Right.
Like, I leave for work at 5:45 in the morning, and I'm not back until 8 o'clock at night, I think. And all I do is, like, I get back at 8 o'clock, I do my chain gang workout, I go do muscle ups and pull ups and dips and shit, and I take a shower and I go to bed, and I'm save the next day. So I'm like, why are these guys f***ing with me like this? They show up at my job a couple times. They were supposed to do, but they never did before. They only had shown up once before in 10 months. Now they've showed up 3 times. It's just weird. So, like, we're progressing along, and then I'm like telling my bosses and stuff, like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, these guys are f***ing with me. So, like, they'd help me in for work, and they would notice that, like, my boss would come get me. Like, if I didn't make my bus ride, which was a 2-hour bus ride to work, like, I'd call my boss, like, dude, these fuckers held me in from work. He'd drive over and get me and bring me to work. And it seemed like that pissed them off, like, that somebody would drive out of their way to get me. So these guys are messing with me. And mind you, like I said, I'm like a model prisoner. I'm just working like 12, 13 hours a day, coming back to the center, like going to church on Sundays, every Sunday. During that time, like a few months prior to this, like probably July, August or so, I meet a chick at church, and we kind of start talking, just friendly, innocently enough, just talking at church. She's not from the female work release center. She's not whatever. She's a free world chick that, as it turns out, is a teacher at the school attached to the church. And we're talking, and it's progressing as time goes on. And, you know, obviously I'm interested in her. She's smoking hot, you know, tall, blonde chick. And, you know, she ends up becoming my girlfriend. And, you know, like,
you're not trying to fuck up.
Yeah, I'm not trying to fuck up. I'm like literally on the straight and narrow. I'm done, sick and tired of being sick and tired. I've been in and out of fucking institutions since I was 13, 14. Like, I'm done. I'm not selling any drugs. I'm not doing anything. I'm not even, like, thinking about doing drugs. I'm like, I just want to, like, get my shit together. And I met this chick that's awesome. You know, she's a teacher. Like, she's an awesome chick. Like, the pastor's daughter, like, from the Midwest, you know, whatever. So I'm just, like, on the straight and narrow. And I like telling her, like, man, these I got these officers with me, and I can't figure out why. I don't know why they're messing with me. This kind of comes to a head, like I said, like February. And I'm at work one day where I'm doing the weekly business report with my manager, Diego. And, you know, we're going through doing our weekly business report. And all of a sudden, the 2 officers show up at work. And they're like, can you come out here with us, please? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, show us where the toolbox is. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, the toolbox where you keep your money. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't have a toolbox. I'm at work release, dude. I'm like, and I work here. Like, everything's provided by the shop. like, show us where the tool. Like, where's your little station where you work? And I'm like, well, technically, like, my title, like, I work here. You can see there is a toolbox here, but it's like got 10 years worth of dust on it. Like, it's not mine. I'm like, feel free to look through it. I'm like, there ain't no money. And they're like, listen, I'm gonna level with you. We know you're selling blues on the compound. We know you're dealing drugs, and you know we people are getting high on the compound, and we know it's you. And I'm like, I don't know who gave you that information. I'm not doing shit. I'm like, if you like watched me, you would know I create no trouble there. I go to work, I come home. I go to work, I come home. That's it. I'm like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm like, that's it. And yeah, well, we know, like, we have it on good authority that you're like, I'm like, how many times have you guys ransacked my room and found nothing?
Right.
Now you're here, you're going to find nothing. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. Like, have you considered maybe whoever told you this? Obviously, somebody told you this. Have you considered maybe that source was wrong? And they're like, no. So they're like, oh, you think you're trying to be cute? Whatever. Come out here with us. And they bring me up by the van, which was parked out front. And they pat me down and like put me in the van, and they're like, listen, you're going to pay to play or we're going to take you to jail. And for those that don't know, in the joint, like, we call getting taken to jail going to confinement.
Right.
At least in the state. I don't know if what they do in the feds, but that's going to confinement. So I'm like, dude, I don't have nothing for you. So then they like grab my wallet. No, you could draw $100 a week out of your inmate account for Zooms and Whams or whatever you want to spend the money on. So I've got like 90 of the 100 left. So they like, I'm back outside the van at this point. So they pluck the 90 out of my wallet and they're like, go back in there and get us some more money or you're going to jail right now. I'm like, fuck, I don't know what to do. You know, I go in there. I'm like, I know my boss will give me some money to give to them. So I go in there. We had just taken like $370 or so from a bumper job that we did for a guy, and he paid cash. So I go inside and I tell the one officer to go around and go into the shop. I needed to talk to my boss. And I'm like, dude, these guys are extorting me. Like, I need some dough to give these guys. And he's like, oh, what do you want me to do? Like, very like thick accent Diego had. He's like, well, what do you want me to do, Ryan? Like, I don't have money to give you. And I'm like, just give me something out of the till. And so he's like, I have that cash that we just took from the bumper job. I'm like, that should be enough to get them to go away. So he gives me like the $370 or whatever. I walk out back into the shop, and our shop was in like kind of a high crime area. So like as I'm walking out to the shop with the dough in my hand, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm gonna position this so he's right on candid camera, right? Because we got cameras everywhere. So I give it to this one officer right on camera. Now, mind you, backing it up, the officer I gave it to was Officer Brown. The other officer that's fucking with me is a lieutenant.
Okay.
Named Eric Bowe. He's a lieutenant in a white shirt.
Right.
The state. Like,
yes,
anyway.
There's no misidentifying them.
Yeah.
Or it's pretty obvious what's happening.
Yeah, and like it's pretty obvious they've been doing this. Because you wouldn't be this brazen as your like first time. They've been doing this. And like I've told people, like when I've told this story, like if I was doing dirt, I would have gladly paid those and been like, here you go.
Right.
Whatever. But I wasn't. So I was kind of like righteously indignant about it. Like,
right.
Like here I am trying to like actually live right, and like you're shaking me down.
Right.
And so
I don't have like I'm not making enough to keep doing this.
Right.
Right. So you've given me really one choice.
Right.
Like either I've got to, well, two choices. Either I've got to start doing it to pay you.
Right.
You know, or I got to figure out another way out of this.
Right.
Or I guess three choices. Or just go to you can go to
just go. Yeah.
In feds, it's the shoe. You can go to the hole. You can go to the hole.
Right.
For doing nothing.
Right. I can go to the box. I got to sell drugs to supplement the income to give them the money. Or I've got to report them somehow and hope that it's not one of their buddies. I give them money on camera. I walked back out with them to the van, and he's like, listen, we're going to be back Monday this is the lieutenant telling me this. He's like, we'll be back Monday for $500 more. We're going to meet you at that Benjamin Moore store right there across the street around lunchtime. Better have our fucking money, basically. I'm like, they leave. I go back inside. I'm like, oh my God, dude. And we call our boss, the actual owner, Bob. And he's like, yeah, call cops, the real cops.
Right.
And so we call the real cops, and we call our IT guy to come pull the camera footage and shit immediately because it's on a loop. It's it gets re-recorded every 2 hours. They said in court, like when the shit went to court, that like it was unclear what he gave the officer. It's clearly money.
Right.
But whatever. Point is, like, Seth pulled the camera footage, and then PBSO, Palm Beach Sheriff's Office cop finally comes, and that cop, like, when he realized I was on work release, he was a complete dick. Complete dick.
What are you going to do when you find out that someone has stolen your house? Are you going to go down to the county clerk and explain to them that a fraud has been committed when you can't find the person that committed the fraud? Are you going to go to law enforcement? They're not going to help you. Are you going to go to the government? They're not going to help you. Your only option is to go through the court system on your own and prove to them that a fraud has been committed and you can't even find the person. But with Home Title Lock, you'll be notified of the changes to your title. They'll advocate on your behalf with law enforcement and the courts to restore your ownership status. You can sign up today at HometitleLock.com/Matt Cox and use the promo code MATT30 for 30 days of protection for free and a comprehensive title scan to make sure that you're not already a victim.
But I'm like telling him what happened, and then it wasn't until, and I also called my girlfriend, and I was like, hey, baby, you need to get up here right now, because I don't know what the f*** is going to happen, but like, I want to see you if something goes down, like, get up here. And she had just gotten off work too, so she's just like threw something on, threw on some yoga pants, and hauled ass up there to see me. She had gotten there like probably 30 minutes after the cop, and by this time I'm sitting down like writing my statement out. And the cop was a dick all the way up to the point where I handed him my statement and he read it. And when he read it, he was like making these faces. I'm like, what? And he was like, well, nothing. You're not a dumbass.
Right.
And he's like, this is like the best, like the most well-written statement I've ever read in my life. And I'm like, thanks. And he's like, well, no, I just like normally guys in your position, they're dumbass. And
right.
He's like, why are you in prison? I'm like, drugs, dude. They make you a person you're not normally, whatever. So then he starts being kind of cool with me. And he's like, listen.
Did he see the footage? You show him the footage?
Yeah, he had seen the footage, you know.
Okay.
And I showed it to him again once he read my statement. Then now he's like, okay, I see what's going on here. The beginning footage of them looking through a toolbox and all that too. We had all that. It was on camera. Them pulling up, them walking, like we had all that. So he's like, all right, well, listen, PBSO probably won't touch this unless it's like a task force thing. He's like, would you be willing to wear a wire on these guys when they come back for the extra 500 so you can really, you know, stup them? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, right. I am no snitch. I'll never snitch on nobody, but like snitching on prison guards, fuck a prison guard. I will snitch on a prison guard all day long. Now, maybe if they were doing bad shit for me that was for my interest, that'd be different. But these guys are trying to extort me.
Down, yeah.
They're shaking me down. F them. I'll wear a wire on those fucking assholes any day. I'm like, yeah. So he's like, well, the FDLE might reach out Monday, like whatever. So I'm like, okay. We leave. I leave with my girlfriend. We go get dinner. And I don't know if they're just going to arrest me right when I get into the center. They don't. I go through the whole weekend. Everything's normal. I see her at church on Sunday. Everything was normal.
What's she saying?
She's just like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? Like, this is up. Like, what are they can't do that. Like, this is people that haven't been in the system.
Right.
You know, I always love when people that haven't been in the system say those words. They can't XYZ. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, oh, honey, you're a person. You have no clue what you're talking about.
You've watched too much TV.
Yeah, they can and they will do whatever the fuck they want, whenever the fuck they want, however the fuck they want, legal or not. So, especially with the corrupt as Florida Department of Corrections is. So, fast forward to Monday morning. I'm walking out of the center. It's 5:45 a.m. Mind you, those two, like, this is important detail. Those two prison shit eaters, they work 8 to 4:30. I'm walking out of the work release center to go catch my bus, my first of 2 buses and 2-hour bus ride it takes to get to my job. I'm walking out at 5:45, and as I'm like probably almost a block away, a white van comes up on me, and it's these two, Lieutenant Bo and Officer Brown, in a state van in uniform at 5:45 in the morning, when they should not even be on shift yet.
Right.
And they're like, get in the van. And I'm like, dude, oh my God, like, these guys gonna like fucking, they're gonna go kill me and dump me in the Everglades. Like, but I really can't make a scene and say no either. So I roll with it. I'm like, hold the fuck on. I gotta grab my cigarettes. I grab my cigarettes, I get in the van, and we leave. And I'm like, they're like, we're gonna give you a ride to work. And I'm like, you know, I try to make them stop as many places as possible. Like I stopped and bought a pack of cigarettes at this one store, made sure I'm on camera, notated in my brain what store it was, and I stopped at another store out by work. Same thing, made sure I'm on camera. And like I knew the owner of that store because I stopped there every day. And I'm like, hey, you need to save this footage for me. So anyway, they get ready to work. Am I just early as it would take me 2 hours to get there on the bus.
Right.
So we get there and it's super early. We're just like sitting there, like playing along with them like I'm going to get them more money, but I got no money to give them.
Right.
I'm just like waiting for one of my coworkers to get there, basically. So my one coworker gets there, Eddie, who's a great dude, but he'd come in at like 7 and he would always leave early on Friday. So he had no clue what happened on Friday.
Right.
So he comes in at like between 7 and 7:30 and he didn't know what happened on Friday, so he's emptying trash in the dumpster when he pulls up, and I'm like, Eddie, just be cool. He's like, oh, so you got a ride this morning, huh? I'm like, that ain't no ride. I'm like, those are those assholes that keep messing with me. I was like, dude, they shook me down on Friday for money, blah, blah, blah. It's a long story. There's a police report underneath the desk in the office if you want to read it, but like, it's bad. And he's like, he's a good old boy from North Carolina. He's like, them motherfuckers. I'm like, I need to stall them because like the FDLE and everybody was supposed to get involved. He's like, all right. So I proceed to like open up the shop and like just kind of go about my day. Like, hold on, guys, I got to look normal. And I stall as long as humanly possible. I stalled for like over an hour. I stall. And then finally the lieutenant is just like, you're stalling. We're going to take your ass to jail. I'm like, oh, hold on. Like, all right. I'm done playing. I go back there. Eddie is on the phone with 911 at this point. And I'm like, dude, they're going to take me in, whatever. Eddie's like, take my phone, talk to the dispatch. He's like, go lock yourself in one of the cars. If they try to come in here, I'll scare them out of here. So like 15 minutes go by and I hear Eddie start yelling. And what I didn't know is like they're looking around trying to find me. And they looked in like one of Eddie's things and Eddie pulls his gun on him. And because Eddie keeps the freaking 45 in his toolbox.
Right.
He's getting the fuck out my shop right now. And they're like, oh, we're just trying to help Ryan because he's got money he's not supposed to have, and we're going to deposit in his inmate account and da-da.
Well, they are brazen, right?
Brazen as fuck, man. And Eddie's like, that doesn't make enough sense. Like, how would that make any sense? You're going to help him? He's like, get the fuck out of my shop right now. So I'm in like a Jeep Grand Cherokee, like down on the floorboard, like talking to 911, like trying to explain what had happened Friday to her. And it's a nightmare. They find me in this Grand Cherokee, and they're pounding on the windows like, get out. After a few minutes, the SO cop car pulls up. As soon as the regular cop car pulls up, I jump out of the Cherokee. I said, listen, sir, you can arrest me right now, cuff me up. I'm like, I'll go wherever you, take me to county, take me wherever. I just don't want to go anywhere with them. I'm in fear for my life. So he immediately cuffs me up, throws me in the cop car. He's like trying to talk to Bowen Brown, who like you can see like steam coming out of their ears as they're like trying to figure out a way to like make this make sense.
Right.
Because they've not thought of backstories to tell other cops, So they're like, oh yeah, we were gonna do the thing for the stuff and the who's he what's it's and the whatcha jiggers and and the cop's like, okay, yeah, he's a ward of the state. I'm gonna give him back to you. So like he makes a big scene. Opens the back door and then like leans in. He's like, Mr. Anderson, we were literally wiring up your boss at the Kmart around the corner. And he's like,
these guys thwarted the plan.
He's like, we don't know why they picked you up early or what. He's like, but unfortunately, he's like, your boss is actually going to come here and try to be like, hey, can I just give you some money to squash all this? Maybe they'll take it, maybe they won't. And he's like, it would have been nice if you could have called a little bit longer. Like, he's telling me this really fast,
right.
Though. He's like, but listen, I got to let you go with them. He's like, but just know you're being followed. He's like, if you go back to the center, we're going to be watching. Nothing's going to happen to you. Like, we're not going to let them kill you or nothing.
Yeah, they don't know that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, they could have killed me in that van and nobody would have known.
Right.
At least till I was dead.
They could take you in the hole and do any number of things to you and say, we found him. He hung himself.
Right. Well, first they had to take me back to the work release center, but they could have strangled me with a seatbelt in the van and said,
I'm saying that doesn't mean that once you're in the place.
Oh, even worse.
It's even worse.
Yeah. So at any rate, they give me back to them, and then now they're like, haha, you thought you were going to get over on us. I'll show you. Like, I have way more power than you. Like, You're going to lose all your game time. I'm going to give you a line to staff DR. I'm going to give you a da-da-da-da DR, whatever. I'm like, fuck you. Both of you, you know. And in the end, we start driving back to the center. Or no, we're about to start driving back to the center. Diego, my manager, comes up and is like, hey, can I just give you guys like $1,000 and we'll just squash this all?
Right.
They were smart enough to be like, no, because like too much had happened. We drive back to the center, and I'm like so nervous the whole ride back. Like, matter of fact, the guy, Officer Brown, was sitting behind me because the Officer Bo douche was like, if he tries anything funny, wrap that seatbelt around his neck and strangle his ass. Literally, like, told him to do that, and which he didn't do, but could have happened. We get back to the center, and we're back at the center. They put me in the officer station, and they immediately like go off to the side to go try to figure out their stories. There's some officers working that know me. They know I don't cause any trouble. And they're like, Anderson, then Bo comes back in and he tells us one officer, Officer Campbell, he's like, hey, listen, Campbell, I need you to put that we signed out the van at 0800, right at 0800.
Right.
And then we just got back, you know, right now. And Campbell's like, but you didn't. You were already gone when we got here. And he's like, I just need you to do it. Like, I'm the lieutenant. Just do it. And, like, when he walked away, I liked Campbell. I painted his car. I'm like, don't do it, Campbell. My lawyer's going to have a field day with this shit. I was like, I promise you, you don't know what's in motion here, but shit's about to go down. And he's like, shit. You think they'd do anything for my black ass? Man, f*** that cracker. I'm not doing shit for him. And, like, literally, like, no sooner did he say that, maybe 5 minutes later, like, the fucking doors to the center, like, fly open, and it's, like, the warden, the Florida State Inspector General, PBSO, FDLE, like, all those people. And they're like, where's Ryan Anderson? Where's Ryan Anderson? Like, where's he at? They, like, make sure that I'm okay. And they're like, get him out of handcuffs right now. Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, where's Bo and Brown at? And they were, like, at there's a road prison right next door to the work release. They're, like, at the road prison, like, off in a corner, like, talking. So they grab them, start questioning everybody and everything, but like there's a lot of damning evidence against them already.
Right, because their story already doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
At the very least, you've already lied on a police report.
Right, which is at the very least enough for them to get fired.
Right.
Let alone,
I think you can get
charged.
I think you can get 2 or 3 years for lying on a police report.
And it's worse when it's an official making that kind of thing. So I get questioned by the FDLE and all these people and all that, and they're just kind of corroborating what I've already said. And then the real kick in the ass about this thing is like I was doing good at work release. Instead of letting me stay and finish out my last 55 days or whatever that I had left, when this all went down, they send me back to Martin Correctional again, which oversees West Palm work release by this time. They put me in AC confinement, so I'm in administrative confinement. I'm in the box, and I just like I'm back there for like 45 days, I think, when I didn't do anything wrong, you know.
Right.
So
I was gonna say, you know, what's funny is like the warden of the prison has the right to release you.
Exactly.
Like the warden, they could have just gone and explained it to the warden. He could have said, "Okay, you know what? Do you have somewhere to go?
Right.
Like we're gonna send you home. Like you're done.
Right.
It's 45 days. You're done. You're safer at home."
Which is exactly, I actually, when I got interviewed by the FDLE, I actually suggested, I'm like, they can't just do an emergency release.
It's 45 days. It's nothing. That's a joke.
It's just
I've
really
been
nothing.
Locked up for years.
Exactly. I asked like that, and I was just like, and then when they said that they were going to send me to Martin, I was like, you guys are like playing with my life. You don't know what buddies they have at Martin or whatever that could mace me to death back there in the box. Like anything could happen. But no, I do my 45 of my last 60 days in the box. Then I go to Belglade for like my last 15 days or whatever, 14 days. Then I get out. And once I'm out, like this whole case and everything's just been like crazy. My girlfriend
has been in the newspaper, right? Because the articles I read in the newspaper.
Yep.
So by this point, they've arrested the guys. Have they charged them and everything?
Not by the time I got out.
Okay.
No, the arrest came later. However, like my girlfriend, like once I get sent to the box and everything, she's just like beside herself, and she's like feverishly writing me, trying to figure out where I'm at. The FDLE had questioned her, and then they like questioned her, and then like when they sent me to the box, I think they like told her they didn't know where I was at, which freaked her out. She had no way to talk
Right.
to me to know. She's like, "Where the fuck? What do you mean you don't know where he's at?" So anyway, all these things happen, and it's just like a whirlwind of fuckery. It's like something out of a bad B movie, you know. And we're going through the whole kit and caboodle here. And are they ever going to charge these guys? Like, no, I'm out. Are they ever going to charge these guys? Like, what the? I knew they were suspended like right away,
Right.
without pay. Well, finally, I want to say it was like, so I got out tax day 2013. I want to say it was like September. They finally officially charged both of them with like official misconduct and a couple other things. And so, they arrest them, they charge them. The white shirt guy got a good lawyer, Michael Salnick. He's pretty good. He gets a pretty good lawyer. Brown has like a public pretender, and like union doesn't do shit for him. So anyway, I end up hearing they get arrested. I'm like, finally, yeah, they get arrested. And just to show you like how slow the wheels of justice move in our system, if it was me, I would have been on trial in 3 months.
Right.
Because these guys were prison guards. It was 3 years before one of them went on trial, which was the lieutenant. They wanted to always try the lieutenant first because they're like, some may say our case is weaker on the lieutenant, but like, that guy, he's a white shirt, like him. So like, he's higher up, whatever. So long and short, we end up going to trial. And I think his lawyer with depositions and all this, and his lawyer is like very clear. His lawyer is going to be like, attack my credibility, attack my credibility, attack my credibility. I wish it was recorded because I mopped the fucking floor with his lawyer. I mean, I mopped the fool. I made him look like a fool. I have a good memory and stuff,
Right.
but he tried every way to trip me up and get me to, get a rise out of me and stuff. And I mopped the fucking floor with that fool. And like, and even the dude Bo, like at one point it was like, can you identify that man in the courtroom? And I was like, yeah, he's the guy over there with the cheap Men's Warehouse suit on and the bad hairpiece or whatever.
Right.
And like the whole courtroom was like, like it was pretty funny. He gets convicted at trial, bam, on everything. The judge I got to do like my victim impact statement, and I wrote like a solid gold impact statement.
Right.
Which part of it was just like me trying to rub it in, but part of it really was like, this is fucked up, dude.
I'm trying to change my fucking life here.
Yeah, like I really, truly was trying to change my life. Like, now mind you, when it finally went to trial 3 years later, that girl that was my girlfriend is now my fucking wife.
Right.
We got married, and I'm just like working my ass off to get my shit together. The ex-girl had, that I was with before I went to prison a second time, our restitution was joint and several. Who do you think had to get stuck paying all the restitution?
Right.
This guy. And by the time the 3 years had elapsed, I had already gotten off probation, paid off all my restitution to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars, gotten married, like all this shit. Like all I was trying to do was get my shit together,
Right.
man. That's it. I wrote this impact statement that was just pretty much like a big you, and like you're entrusted for the
You're in a position of trust, and you're
Yeah.
supposed to be keeping me. Part of it is you're a jailer. You're supposed to keep me incarcerated, but and following the rules. But you're also supposed to. You're entrusted with my safety.
yes.
So
And so yeah, they I forget what there's like a 3 C's or something. It's like care, something in control, care, comfort, and control, care, something rather control, like the DOC uses. Yeah, they just violated all that shit. And like the one guard, the Officer Brown, I like almost felt bad for him. I didn't, but almost, because he was like Bo's puppy dog.
right.
I guarantee you that pussy would have never done that without Bo. He's a pussy. And so, but like following Bo around, like, I can make a couple $100 raggedy ass dollars. Like,
Well, how many people were? I mean, how long had they done that, and what? I mean, what do you think? Because you're clearly not the first person they'd ever done that to.
I think that Bo had been doing it for years.
Right.
As like almost as long as he's been working at the center. Brown hadn't been an officer long enough. I think I was probably one of the first people that he ever like.
And it went way wrong.
It went way wrong. Lost his career over it. So once Bo got convicted, Brown took a deal, lost his career, and got like, he was just barely like at that point where they get a vest.
Right.
I think it's like 3 or 5 years for them, so they're just barely getting the vest. So he lost everything. Not to mention like all the time he was out on admin leave and all that kind of shit. So like that's basically what happened. And like after it happened, like I had other guys like, yeah, they were making me pay rent too. But the thing was, is like those guys wouldn't come forward because they were doing shit.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and yeah, dude, it's just, the Florida system's so corrupt. Like I can like go on about it, but that's a story for another time. But like the fact that, you know, he only got a few years too is just annoys the fuck out of me too. Like that guy deserved to get 10 years because he was also a piece of shit to prisoners.
Right.
You know, from being in the feds too, like we're already doing time.
Right.
That's our punishment. You don't need to be punitive too.
Right. Yeah.
You don't need to be extra. You know?
I like the guys, like the guys that, the correctional officers that are basically, it's just a job.
Right.
They show up, they do their job, they leave. It's the guys that get there and they want to talk down to you. They want to belittle you and make your life much harder. They want to write up incident reports for things that didn't happen.
Right.
Or, you know, I've seen guys, you know, they'll go in and there's all those stupid things.
They'll lie on you.
Not even, I'm not even talking about guys that'll plant stuff. Like you don't have to plant someone to give them a hard time, plant stuff on.
No.
You could just go in and flip their bed. Like people don't realize, like I've got a cell.
Right.
If the guard walks in and he flips my bed over or just pulls, he can just mess it up and write a report. Boom.
Right.
Guy didn't have, you know, this inmate didn't have his bed, you know, in good shape. Or maybe I've seen guys get written up because the guy 2 cells down borrowed a newspaper and he went to return it and he put it on the guy's bed. Boom. Inmate has something on his bed. Like, I didn't put it on my bed.
Right.
Somebody else did. And you write me up. And now I lose 30 days commissary, or I get, you know, something happens to me, or maybe you lose your 2-man room and now you're in a 3-man room.
Right.
And you're like, it took me 2 years to get into a 2-man room because I lent a paper to Jimmy, and Jimmy wasn't smart enough to realize you shouldn't have thrown it on my bed. You should have handed it back to me. Right. So, and you know I didn't do that. Right. I was at work.
Right.
When I left, my bed was fine. When I came back, you've written me a report. You've written me an incident report because Jimmy, when I was at work, threw it on my paper. Like, it's so unfair. And people think, oh, well, what's the big deal? The big deal is it took me 2 years to get a 2-man cell. I was comfortable. Yeah. I did nothing wrong.
Right.
And now I'm going to a 3-man cell with 2 other guys.
That would be uncomfortable.
That's extremely uncomfortable. And, you know, it's just this, and people don't, you know, they don't realize how, you hear about these guys who are like, this guy got stabbed because he lost the guy's book. Like the guy, I lent him my Game of Thrones book and he lent it to somebody else and that guy got shipped or he gave it to somebody and now they can't find it. And next thing you know, they get stabbed. Somebody gets stabbed over it, and you're like, God, you stabbed him over a book. You don't seem to understand what happened. That's not the book.
Happened.
Like there's a whole other. Your priorities are so shifted. The things that mean nothing out here that you wouldn't think twice about are so overwhelmingly important. You make decisions and you do things that you would never do on the street. Until you've been there for 4 or 5 years, you know, it still seems silly.
Yeah.
But 4 or 5 years later, it's not silly.
Yeah.
You know, you can't talk to me like that. You can't say that. You can't do this. You need to return that. That's why, like, to me, luckily I was sharp enough not to get into those stuff. I don't lend things. I don't do this. I don't borrow this. I don't do this. I just don't have it. I don't lend it. I don't give it. I don't this. I don't borrow anything. I'll do without. No, I'll go without coffee for a week. I don't need to borrow coffee. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and like across the board, there's all these little things that just kept me out of trouble because I saw things go so wrong for other people.
Little tiny nuances that are a big deal.
Yeah.
They're a big deal, you know, or can be. And a lot of it is just respect things. Yeah. Like just boils down to respect on a basic level. A lot of it's just respect. And then so many other things too. Like I'm not going to borrow from you. I'm not going to pay you interest. Like you, like I'll go without, you know, and I'm not going to, you know, I'm just not going to do that, you know. And I
was saying, I've even bought stuff for people and they're like, no, I'll get you back. No.
Right.
this is yours. Like, you don't know
yours.
You want to give me some of that back? That's fine. That's fine. It's up to you. But what you know,
right? This is yours. I'm buying it for you.
Right.
It's yours. Yeah.
I bought a guy like a toothpaste one time because he's using the regular toothpaste all the time. I know he had money in it. I bought it. Boom.
The Bob Barker.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's horrific.
It's better for polishing metal than it is for doing your teeth.
Right. But
yeah,
it's a horrible situation. Just what's your priority? I wish I could think of a way to say it. Your priorities are so skewed and so fucked up after being in prison just a little period of time.
Right.
And I've seen guys that they get themselves into trouble right away.
Right away.
They don't
crash
understand.
test dummy right away.
Yeah, and you're just like, bro, what'd you do? Like, you got here, you within a week, you're running up debts, you're borrowing money, you're doing everything wrong. You try and tell them that guy's good, bro. No, he's not good. You don't know that guy. Nah, we're from the same neighborhood. That doesn't mean anything.
You're doing way too much. Like,
right.
Calm down. Like, stop what you're doing. A couple little white kids get themselves in trouble that way. Like, just, oh man, he's so nice. He like lent me this. And I'm like, did you not watch the Honey Bun video, bro? Right. Like, come on. Like, this is like prison 101. You weren't paying attention to the Honey Bun video, were you?
Guys used to say, what's the difference between the low and the medium? I say you have to have heard me say that. I'd say in the medium, if a dude leaves a Snickers bar on your pillow, don't touch it. In the low, you can eat it. You'll be fine. Right. Yeah, nobody's gonna do anything. They're walking around tough guys. They're acting like badasses and stuff.
But for the most part,
you'd have to really give them a reason.
Yeah, you'd have to really give them a reason to go after you for the most part.
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where GhostBed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, GhostBed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every GhostBed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your GhostBed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a GhostBed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which ghost bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use the code COX at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/Cox with the code COX at the checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide.
Like, we don't have medium and low in state, but we have like higher institutions.
Yeah, don't they have levels, right? It's a level 5, it's a level 7.
Level 7, yeah, whatever. Like, or whatever. Like, but you've also just got some places that are wilder than others, and you got to know how to move and know how to do your time. And
but this is the same thing. Like, there's guys that would be in the like the low in Yazoo is worse than the medium at Coleman. You know what I mean? Like, it's
right. Of course,
you know,
of course.
In the low here, like, if you're a offender, like, don't even look in the window of the TV room as you walk by.
Right.
You know, that like they keep their heads down. They don't, you know, in the low, these guys these guys would actually come in. Some would just stand outside the window and they'd look. Sometimes there were sometimes when they'd actually go in and watch a program. Like, they'd have to really petition to be able to watch a program. But it happens.
These
are
the sex offenders?
Yeah, these are the sex offenders. But this is a low. 50% of them are sex offenders. What are you going to do? You know, there's too many of them, right? But you think about in other institutions, like, these guys are walking around, they're staring at the ground, they eat glass, they did, like, right. You know, and it could be even a higher, it could be even a lower custody. It just depends on who's running it. Like, just because it's what happens at a low in California is vastly different than what's going to happen at a low in Florida.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and like for stateside for offenders, and like me personally, it's like pretty much smash on site or check in. I didn't even get into that part of like my own story, but like, so I'm a survivor of that. There's a couple people in my neighborhood that I grew up in, there was like actually not one but two, like pretty prolific. I know now,
right,
offenders that molested numerous boys in my neighborhood, like numerous ones of us, and we all didn't know that he got a bunch of us until later, and it f***ed up like a whole generation of kids, like actually, because he got so many of us. And so, like for me, from that perspective, like I personally put a lot of people's shit on the glass. Like, you know, you get those like dorky, usually little dorky little white boy or something.
They all they have that look.
They got a look, man. They do. A little fucking weasel. It's usually just a little weaselly little dude, and you're just like paperwork. And if they don't have paperwork, you know, you're like,
my lawyer told me not to talk about my case. You're gonna get smashed.
Yeah, put your shit on the glass. How about that? Like, or like I worked at maintenance when I was at Franklin, and I don't want to say how, but we had a way to, like, you know, not even with a cell phone. It wasn't we had a cell phone. We had a way to look up people's DOC record, and like I remember there was this dude that was like, he would run ink and stuff. He was a goddamn good tattoo artist. But I overheard him a few times in line, like on the way to chow, be like, "Oh yeah, look at her, or look at him, or whatever." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" And he's like talking to some other dude, like, I'm like, just take that or whatever. And I'm like, this guy, there's something's up with this fucking guy. So I decided to look his ass up. He's in for an L&L on a victim under 12. And like, and everybody was like, kind of like, oh, he's a fucking outlaw biker.
Doesn't mean anything.
And maybe he was. He had the tattoo and shit, but I don't give a fuck. I personally was like, put your fucking shit on the glass. And I had printed it out, the printout, and smuggled it back in. I was like, you get your shit out of the glass. And he's like, I ain't no fucking offender, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, listen, dude, put your shit on the fucking glass. And he like started to refuse at first. I said, listen, I'm going to really throw you under the bus now. And I was like, I'm just going to do something, and you're going to see why you need to put your shit on the glass. And I just pasted it up on the officer station, and everybody immediately got to see that he not only was there for an L&L and a victim under 12, but he was a multiple time offender.
Right.
He is a prolific offender. And like, I'm one of those people, like, I believe that people can change if they put enough work in. However, offenders can't be rehabilitated. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Those cannot be rehabilitated. All they want to do is figure out a way to get away with it. They're not like drug addicts and gambling addicts and fraud addicts,
right?
You know, who can change. Like, that's like a switch or something is up in their head that they are attracted to minors. It can't be fixed. They might as well just Jimmy Rice Act all of them, put them in a fucking island somewhere, send them all to Epstein's Island or some shit. Like, I don't know, like, just do something with them. You know, it just they can't be rehabilitated. I don't care what anybody says. You just can't. But anyway, I digress. But it's just really sickening to me, the way those people operate. But like, and I've heard that about the feds, though, that the lows sometimes are just
because there's so many that are arrested.
Exactly.
And what's happening is they'll go in, they'll get these guys that are, you know, they'll arrest 45 guys on one case. They'll arrest because they're doing internet crimes. So there's so many of these guys feel comfortable on the Instagram. They're looking up stuff. They're just looking up photos. And so if you even have looked it up and have it on your computer, you're getting 3 years mandatory. That's it, 3 years. So they flooded all the lows. They can't, you know, it's not, they don't consider it like a violent crime, so they're not going to the mediums. But they can't go to a low because of public safety. So you can't. It has to be a fence. So it's a low. You're only going to the lows. So the lows are packed full of them.
Wow.
And so now they just fill them up, and you know, what do you do? And then just recently, about a year or so ago, the halfway houses started taking them again in Florida, because Florida used to not allow them in halfway houses.
They're not allowed to go to work release, for like states.
But they've locked up. So, you know, it's like, okay, great, you're going out, you're getting them, you're doing something. That's great, but that's only half the problem. Now, where do they go?
Well, they don't give the motherfuckers no time either. That's what really irks me too. Like, I don't know about the feds.
I was going to say, in the feds, here's the problem. So if you actually can be a hands-on offender in the state, and you can get probation.
Right.
But if you looked at a picture in the Fed, you're getting 3 years. Now, if you have multiple pitchers, you could end up with 3, 6, 9. You could end up with 50. There are guys that have 15 years because they had a video or they went to whatever. And it's like, okay, but he didn't get a hold of anybody. This guy got a hold of someone, and he got 12 months in the state and 5 years paper. It's like, are you serious? This guy yanked somebody into a van.
Right.
This guy looked at some pictures. I'm not saying either one of them is acceptable, but 15 years versus 12 months? What are you doing?
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever as far as I'm concerned. But I've just noticed you get somebody that pawns some shit, you give them 5 years, 4 years, whatever it may be. You got a guy that, got an L&L on somebody under 12, and they get 24 months.
Right.
They may have a lifetime of probation after, but it's still like.
Well, I think the problem is that for it's a tough situation, and the problem is for some people it'll never be enough time. You're never going to get a consensus on what constitutes enough time. If you're a little old lady and you lost $500,000 of your life savings to a white collar criminal, some people are saying he's a white collar criminal, but if it's her, she's saying give him life.
Right.
So well, if I give him life, what do I give the murderer? What do I give the? So it's a balancing act.
It's also just because I don't believe they can be rehabilitated. That always sways my thing.
Well, I think, and here's the other problem with my opinion on that is like, now we have to house them. Like now, kind of like what the judge said. Like, how much resources can you throw?
Right.
And you can't march them off to the gun range.
Right.
So it's like, not that there's not a whole, not that I don't think that vote would pass, but nobody wants to even put it up for a vote.
Right.
So it's like you're like there's just no good solution.
No, like. That's why there always needs to be like a place that they go. Just like
you want an island, they can grow their own food. They can
be completely
create their own culture,
off grid.
It's fine.
Right.
So parents can threaten to send their children there when they're bad. There would be a whole genre kind of set up just around that whole thing. People would write books. It would be. Yeah. It would turn into the boogeyman.
Oh yeah, it'd be like my parents tell me they're going to give me to the gypsies.
Right.
When I was a kid, we're going to give you to the gypsies. What the fuck even are the gypsies?
I don't even know what the gypsies are, but the fact that you guys are threatening me with it.
Yes.
I don't want to.
Yes. They would tell us that all the time. Like, we're going to give you to the gypsies. I'm like, what the fuck even are the gypsies? The Hungarians, the weird English people, like the Brad Pitt and Snatch. Like,
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. But yeah, I mean,
well,
yeah.
What are we good? You feel good?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, and I can tell Kevin's good.
Can tell Kevin is having some problems.
He is. I can tell he was.
I feel bad because I know he doesn't have any food in his stomach. So.
Yeah.
So the story behind that is these guys had a bad meal last night, and they spent a good portion of last night being sick at the hotel, and this morning being sick. And when I got the phone call this morning, it was like, I think we're good. We're on our way. There's nothing left in our stomachs. We're good. But Kevin, who's watching, is gone to the bathroom. Well, has been good, but has gone to the bathroom several times and obviously not doing well. So
I thought of a title for a book when I was in prison. I was like, I'm gonna write a memoir and just call it Weird Shit and Amazing Tales, like my life and times as a degenerate drug addict in South Florida. And
that'd be good. That'd be a great title.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good title. And now I'm putting it on the internet so some other asshole will read it. But I always thought it would be a good title though, and just like put a bunch of like my dad's stories and shit in there because there's numerous. So. But yeah.
Your dad's story sounded like my cousin's story of a cousin who is addicted to meth and was in prison, has been in and out of prison for meth and manufacturing meth. And
oh geez.
And so he had one story after another, and his stories were great, bro. They were hilarious. And I remember one time he said, and just the way he talks, man, I had a credit card one time, I couldn't break it. I couldn't break it. It was a corporate card, and I could just buy and buy and buy. And I used this thing for weeks, and I couldn't break it. He goes, and my girlfriend, he goes, the girl I was seeing, she said, baby, take me to the store and let me give me some diapers. He goes, so I go and we fill up the cart with diapers, and I swipe the card, and it's good. And we're walking out with the cart filled with diapers, and the manager comes out,
Right.
and he runs up to him and he goes, and he says, hey, well, you got to come back in the store. You got to come back in the store. We got to talk about this. And he's like, oh, wait a minute. So the guy says, man, come on, man, let me just take the diapers. Let me go. Let us go.
Right.
And he goes, nah, you should have. He goes, oh, you should have thought about that. And he looked at him. He said, okay. And he pulls, and he's got a gun. My cousin's got a gun.
Right.
Pulls out the gun and puts his hand on the gun. He said, you know what? He said, help her put those diapers in the fucking back of that truck. And the guy's like, oh, wait a minute. I got kids. I got a wife. And he goes, oh, you should have thought about that. And he says, so he loads them up and tells them to kick rocks. And they get in the car and they leave.
Fucking asshole.
But, you know,
Right.
it's just one story after another. It's like every one of them's hilarious.
Yeah, there's those people out there just
On the fringes.
that are full of them. My dad's like a Florida man without being a Florida man. He's from Connecticut, but he's.
I don't think you have to be born here to be a Florida man.
I don't even
I feel like you have to just reside
from
here.
a native's perspective.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to be born
Yeah.
here to be a Florida man. And like Florida's full of f***ed up people from Ohio. That's like, oh, you're f***ed up and from Ohio, come to Florida. You know, Tim Dorsey used to say that in all of his books. That like all the f***ed up people from Ohio, like
Tim Dorsey's
migrate to
great.
Florida. They're popular books in the joint and shit. So
Hey, I appreciate you guys watching the interview. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos like this. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much. See ya.